Nation, guess what? I'm back. I'm from the SpoCon 2019 down here in Spokane, Washington. And you are listening to the GPS. And that's right, I'm bringing it down, and I'm sitting here with two of the fine illustrated artists for this new one-of-a-kind weird Western. And we were sitting here talking about sci-fi. And before we get into what they're doing, we're going to talk about where you picture sci-fi at right now. So let me get you to introduce yourself.
Yeah.
So go on and let me know who you are.
I'm Jayel Draco.
I'm Chris Covelli.
All right, and what do y'all do for a living?
I'm a writer, illustrator, and publisher with Oneshi Press.
Oh, okay. And you?
I'm a contributor for an illustrator for Foreign Horses and other Oneshi Press projects, and I'm also a 3D animator.
Oh man, that's what's up. So, JL,
Yeah.
you were saying before we even got on the mic, about sci-fi and where it's at, man. What's the skinny on how you're viewing it?
Well, I think unfortunately for a while now, I feel like the genre has been stunted in the mainstream media. And I think a lot of that is financial. I think a lot of big-time studios and producers are stuck in this loop of nostalgia mining, and they don't want to take chances. There is a lot, there's no shortage of creators making new and innovative works. One of the things that I do is publish an anthology, right?
All right.
So people are always submitting work. So I know for a fact that there is no shortage of super creative people always creating new and innovative, brilliant projects all the time. So how come when we want to go out to the movies, we're seeing the same thing being remade for the fourth time, only now like it looks more, lifelike instead of cartoony, and that's like the big, whoa,
The industry has become has become so monetized that it's just they only do things when they know it's safe. They know it's gonna win. They know it's a story that everybody knows of. We're just gonna add some CGI to it and put it out there.
Yeah. So
whereas they could be taken. It's not even taking that much of a chance to just find original content and create something new that people haven't seen before.
Okay, so give me an example of something new, because I remember not too long ago Shannon Tatum had a movie out, Jupiter Rising. I liked it. Not so much for everyone else. It was a flop, and so it wasn't a story. The basic story that everyone tells has been the basic story that's been told since Socrates wrote.
Oh yeah.
But what is it that you're looking for that's gonna spark the minds, of the youth? They've tried to take the book series of the Maze Runner, but that's basically just an apocalyptic take on what's that old book we used to have to read when I was in school with the kids.
Oh, Lord of the Flies.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's basically what it was. Just another take of Lord of the Flies. So what are y'all wanting if it was you?
Oh, it's they say that there's nothing new under the sun. All the stories have been told. We've heard it before, and we're not looking for anything that nobody has heard before, like anything about before. A new story with new characters in a new setting instead of just rehashing. Spider-Man and all. These movies are great. All these Marvel things that are
talking
coming
about the new popular comic.
Yeah, like
right?
it's what I think is it's so safe to do these projects for these big movie companies and put these out there because they know that everybody likes it.
I think Warner Brothers might think different of you because Justice League and those other movies they ain't been doing too well. So
depends on how well they do, how good they make the movie.
But I figure. So you look at even with Stephen King, most of his movies are considered horror.
Yeah.
But most of his books are considered horror. But he has sci-fi books as well.
Right.
And when they tried to do one of his sci-fi books, and it didn't do too well either.
Yeah.
So, and that's an original story, the gunslinger. So, is it that you want to see more grounded, back to earth type of sci-fi, or do you want something that's, because they're trying? I mean,
Yeah.
when I was complaining, they weren't trying. And now I've seen that they're trying, and that the fans are fickle like wrestling fans. You give them something and it's not what they want, so they don't open-minded to it. Because even John Carter, which is what Star Wars and everything is based off of, flopped. And it had the machine back
Such a good
behind it.
series of books.
Yeah, it's such a good series of books, but it's almost impossible to put to movies because it's such
In a way,
a
you're right, yeah.
minded way of doing it. Just like Dune. They're going to redo Dune.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll
And
see.
I don't
We'll
know
see.
if I want to watch Dune again. The first Dune, I was a kid, so
I wanna
it
see-
had something for
Yep.
me. But then when I got older, and I was like, I can't believe I like this crap.
I want to see the Dune that was never made, the Jodorowsky's Dune. Have you ever?
Right.
That's
But
that documentary.
you have
That's
to
such
have
a
someone
good.
that's willing to take
take a risk.
To take
That guy was
risk.
taking a huge
yeah,
risk.
taking a huge risk. But nowadays, the huge risk can be a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, so I think here's another thing that goes along with the risk. It's not just what story is being told, but how, right? So when we talk about
Exactly.
storytelling, there's the formulas of like successful movie making. This is what was popular in that last film, so we have to do that again. And it's like,
Right.
no, that was popular in that last film because it was innovative.
Right.
If you do it again, it's not innovative.
And that's why DC is not making good
Right?
movies.
You can't just try to make a formula out of what worked, because the things that worked were the things that no one ever did before, right? So every time you try to make a formula around that, you're already failing. And a lot of times, even movies that are like a new story or a story that has yet to be on the big screen,
Right.
it's in the execution that they still fail, because they're still like, oh, well, we gotta have this scene, we gotta have this character, we gotta have that event, and they're all these prefabricated kind of hooks and gimmicks and things that we've seen before.
If there's not an explosion
not-
within the first 5 minutes,
It's not genuine.
It's good.
Right.
What
It's not gonna
everyone
get
responds to in a really good movie is that moment of catharsis where you get up, your heart beats,
Right.
you get teary-eyed, you get angry. Like, catharsis is when you are genuinely feeling that your feelings are being matched in what you're taking in as a creation. You're seeing this creation that is making you feel you.
Right.
And that's genuineness. You cannot make a formula for genuineness.
Well, and see, that's
Right.
why I think Disney didn't get in Marvel's way. They allowed Kevin Feige to say, okay, we got all of these properties with all of this backstory and all of these story plots, and we can't translate it 100% to film, but we'll translate it and we'll make it have a feeling. So, and if you ever look at all Marvel movies, they're not all the same, because everyone says they're all the same, but they're not. They're westerns, they're they're spy thrillers, they're space operas, they're space odysseys. There's always something in there that makes it different from the other, even though it's a comic book movie. It generalizes as a comic book movie, but it can be broken down in a different genre of a movie. And I think that's what happens with sci-fi movies, is they're just all sci-fi movies. They've gotten away from. So it's it's got its hard title, but it don't have a subtitle. You know,
The genre should just be a backdrop.
Yeah,
The story needs to be
It's a
more about the
sci-fi.
genre.
And that's why I say that the very first Aliens was the last one, because it was a sci-fi, but it was a horror movie.
Right.
You know, it was a sci-fi movie. It was horror. The original Terminator was a sci-fi movie, but it was a thriller. You know, the first Star
It was also
Wars,
a horror.
Yeah, it also was a horror.
That was a fever dream, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
like
man,
the
it
story
was-
that Cameron told us. He woke up from a fever.
Cameron's trying
And that
to
was the
get it
dream he
back.
had.
But
Yeah.
so, but Star Wars, the first three, they were space operas, but they were military movies.
Yeah,
And people, but now we've gotten away from the subplot and just saying what's sci-fi, so things got to blow up, There's got to be lasers. There got to be some kind of aliens.
Lens flares.
And then, and then you got to have all of this, some kind of robot.
Or lens flares.
Yeah. I guess as the decades go on, it's like a genre gets more defined, and instead of continuing to define the genre, you're just kind of you're just kind of seeing things that are just affirming the genre. This is what the genre is. This is what the genre needs. It needs lasers. It needs spaceships. It needs it, and if that's all it's focusing on, it's not really, it's not really evoking all of the things that Jayel was touching on about touching with making you feel something.
Right. Okay. All right. So since y'all are doing that, let's break into you and what y'all are doing, because what caught my eye was the little panel that we got, the little thing, and it was the one of a kind weird Western, The Children of Gaia, the War and Horses, and that caught my eye because I'm a Stephen King reader and I love The Gunslinger, and that whole book series, it's different. So how about you tell me about the beginning of the stories that y'all have done with this, and then we'll move into what your new book is going.
Sure. Do you want to?
Sure. So, Jayel and I have been working on this epic world called Children of Gaia since we were in middle school, basically.
Oh, that's
just coming up with ideas and writing down, and we'd even make our own action figures when we were kids and enact some of the stories with them, and eventually as we grew up, we started just doing more artwork and wanting to make this into a big epic story. We've been writing the lore of it, building the world, like the creation history of the world, the history of how all these civilizations that it touches on came about, and now we're starting to try to piece it together into works that we can publish and put out there.
To the public, the mainstream.
Put on people's shelves,
All right, that's what's up.
So,
so tell me about the War and Horses. Tell me what exactly is this about?
Okay, so War and Horses it's kind of meta. It's a book written by a character in this universe.
Okay.
Right? And so this fictional journalist, Landon Ford, he's following in the aftermath of these events spurred on by this character that he calls the Trigger Man, who is, how much do we want to tell? I mean, I guess
just give me a synopsis. Don't tell me everything.
So he's following this character who's done some no good, This character showed up into town, messed the whole things up, and everyone's in chaos. And
right.
So Landon Ford, this journalist, is following in the aftermath, trying to piece together what happened, right? So this book is Landon Ford's dramatic reenactment, right? And that includes illustrations and etchings, and it's a 130-page book, and pretty much at least every other page is fully illustrated. I mean, it's just tons of super detailed art. The art in that book is designed, some of it to look like etchings, and some of it to look like, that like glass plate photography, like turn of the century, like you'd see like a photo of like a cowboy or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That like grainy, like really old school
daguerreotype.
So I did a lot of the illustrations are designed to look like that, to emulate that kind of photography. And the idea is that this journalist is taking photos where he can of whatever things are still there by the time he gets there. And then also some photos he has to buy off of people who live there because they're things that are no longer intact, that he can no longer take photos of. Certain characters are already long dead by the time he gets there.
So he's just always behind.
Yeah, exactly. He's always behind this Trigger Man trying to piece together this story.
Okay. So when we go through that, and y'all have a new book.
That's the new book that's coming out.
Okay.
This book, it was actually our first book. This is Great Nations.
Book was the Great Nations of Rendaria?
Rendaria, correct. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So Tell us about that one, since this is going to get everybody into the new one.
Exactly. So similarly, this book is written and illustrated also by a character in this story. Only this character, he's in a different world. This is more like high fantasy. The other book is War and Horses, is more like a weird western. It takes place in a setting that is very similar to the Old West, that, frontiers looking kind of climate and environment style. This book is much more high fantasy. Great Nations is. So Great Nations is written by this monk who is living in a refugee camp after the Great Nations have been invaded and destroyed. So the Great Nations are gone, and he was a scholar who was working in one of the libraries. He was full of knowledge, knew all about the nations, and now he is spending the rest of his time in this refugee camp just trying to write everything and illustrate everything and just record whatever he can remember, because he might be the last person alive that knows this stuff. I mean, entire civilizations are gone, and
he's So, all right, so we got that. And how can people get this book?
Okay, so Great Nations is currently available on oneshipress.com.
Okay.
That's ONESHIPRESS.com.
All right.
And War and Horses, we're actually launching a Kickstarter for this Monday, August 12th. And the link is a bit.ly, so it's bit.ly/Oneshi, ONESHI.
All right.
-KS.
That's what's
KS
up.
for Kickstarter.
And that's what's up.
So yeah, that'll be available if we make our Kickstarter. That'll be available September 10th. We'll pull the trigger on printing it.
All right, man, that's what's up. So, GK Nation, get on out there and check these books out. So I got Chris with me and Jayel with me, and we are out here at the SpoCon in Spokane, Washington. And you know what? You can't get no better than this. Getting all these great artists, all these great writers, all these great people out here sharing out their love for everything that we like. So I'd want to thank you for me and the Dre Irv for being here. And
thanks so much for having us.
Man. Seriously, thanks. You guys are awesome.
Anytime we can get you back, let us know.
Yeah.
Because we are on the GPS.